Kang T stood at the edge of the docking bay and watched the stars spin slowly outside the massive window. The space station was bigger than any city he had ever seen on Earth. It floated in the darkness like a crystal flower, beautiful and cold. This was Velora Prime, home of the Velani people, and T was very far from anything he knew. He was 32 years old. He had spent 12 years in the United Defense Corps on Earth, fighting in wars that nobody remembered anymore. When his service ended, he found himself without purpose. The military had taught him how to fight, how to survive, and how to protect, but it had not taught him how to live a normal life. So when a recruitment agent offered him a job as a private guard on an alien station, he took it without asking many questions. The Velani were strange creatures. Their skin looked like living crystal, shifting colors depending on their mood. They were tall and thin, with long fingers and large eyes that seemed to look right through you. They moved slowly and spoke softly. Everything about them was gentle and elegant, and everything about them made T feel like a dirty animal standing in a palace. He learned quickly that the Velani did not like humans. They thought humans were violent, simple, and ugly. They called his kind the loud ones, because humans spoke with their voices while Velani often communicated through their minds. Most Velani refused to even look at him when he walked through the station corridors. But they needed him. That was the funny part. The Velani were powerful in their minds. They could move objects without touching them. They could speak across great distances without words. They could see things that had not yet happened, but their bodies were weak. A hard fall could break their bones. A strong hit could kill them. They had evolved past physical conflict so long ago that they had forgotten how to defend themselves with their hands. That was where humans came in. T was hired because he could do what no Velani would do. He could fight. He could bleed. He could take damage and keep moving. To the Velani, this was not a skill. It was a disease, but it was a useful disease. His assignment was simple. He would serve as personal guard to Queen Lyra, ruler of the Velani people. She was the most important person on the station, and lately there had been whispers of danger, political enemies, rival factions, the usual problems that came with power. T met the Queen on his third day. He was brought to her throne room by a Velani official who refused to speak to him directly. The room was enormous, filled with floating lights and walls that looked like frozen water. At the center sat Queen Lyra on a throne made of pure white crystal. She was beautiful in the way a glacier is beautiful, cold, perfect, untouchable. Her skin was pale silver, and her eyes were deep purple. She wore robes that seemed to flow like liquid around her body. When T entered the room, she did not look at him. She did not acknowledge him at all. She simply continued speaking to her advisors as if he was not there. T stood at attention and waited. Minutes passed. The Queen finished her conversation, dismissed her advisors, and finally turned her eyes toward him. She studied him the way someone might study an insect. "You are the human," she said. Her voice was soft like wind through leaves. "Yes, Your Majesty," T replied. "You will stand where I tell you to stand. You will move when I tell you to move. You will not speak unless spoken to. You will not touch anything. You will not look at anyone longer than necessary. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Majesty." She turned away from him. The conversation was over. That was how it began. For the next several weeks, T followed Queen Lyra like a shadow. He stood behind her during council meetings. He walked beside her through the station corridors. He waited outside her chambers while she slept. And through all of it, she never once spoke to him beyond simple commands. The other Velani treated him worse. Some of them laughed at him quietly. Others moved away when he approached, as if his presence was a bad smell. One advisor openly called him the pet in front of the entire council. Queen Lyra did not correct him. T did not complain. He had been treated badly before. In the military, soldiers were often treated as tools, not people. He had learned to accept disrespect without anger. He was here to do a job, not to make friends. But even as he accepted his role, T began to notice things that troubled him. There were people watching the Queen, not her guards, not her advisors, others. He would catch glimpses of them in crowded rooms, standing too still, looking too carefully. They wore normal clothes and blended into the background. But T had spent years learning to spot danger, and his instincts told him these people were wrong. He started paying closer attention. He noticed that the same faces appeared at different events. He noticed that certain corridors were always empty when they should not be. He noticed small signals passed between strangers, quick movements of fingers that meant nothing to most people but everything to someone trained in tactical communication. Someone was planning something. T was sure of it. He brought his concerns to the Queen's chief advisor, a tall Vellani named Orin. He explained what he had seen. He described the patterns. He suggested increasing security for upcoming events. Orin listened with a bored expression. "You see violence everywhere because violence is all you understand," Orin said when T finished. "The Vellani do not solve problems with blood. We are not like your kind. There is no threat here. Return to your position and do not waste my time again." T wanted to argue. He wanted to grab Orin by his crystal shoulders and shake some sense into him. But he held his tongue. He was just a human. His word meant nothing here. So he did the only thing he could do. He stayed closer to the Queen. He watched the shadows more carefully. He prepared himself for something that everyone else refused to believe was coming. At night, alone in his small room, T sometimes wondered why he cared so much. The Queen treated him like furniture. The Vellani looked at him with disgust. No one here would cry if he died tomorrow. But T had made a promise when he took this job. He had promised to protect, and a promise was a promise, no matter who it was made to. He did not know that in 7 days, that promise would cost him everything. He did not know that his blood would paint the sacred floors of the crystal atrium. He did not know that the Queen who never looked at him would break herself to save his life. All he knew was that danger was coming. And when it came, he would be ready. The bloom of stars was the most sacred ceremony in Vellani culture. It happened once every 100 years when their home star aligned with 3 distant moons. During this time, the Queen was required to stand alone in the crystal atrium and receive the blessings of the ancient spirits. No guard could come within 50 meters of her. No weapon could enter the sacred space. This was law. This was tradition. This was how it had always been. T hated everything about it. He stood at the edge of the atrium with the other guards, watching Queen Lyra walk slowly toward the center of the massive room. The crystal atrium was the heart of Velora Prime. Its walls were made of transparent crystal that showed the stars outside. Its floor was polished so smooth that it reflected everything like still water. Floating lights drifted through the air like gentle snowflakes. It was beautiful. It was also a perfect place for an assassination. Thousands of Vellani had gathered to watch the ceremony. They filled the balconies above the atrium, their crystal skin glowing softly in the starlight. They were silent. They were peaceful. They had no idea what was about to happen. T's eyes moved constantly. He scanned the crowd. He checked the exits. He watched the shadows in the corners of the room. His body was tense. His hands wanted to reach for a weapon he was not allowed to carry. The Queen reached the center of the atrium. She stood on a raised platform made of white stone and lifted her arms toward the transparent ceiling. Above her, the stars seemed to pulse with ancient light. She began to speak words in the old Vellani language, her voice rising and falling like music. T did not understand the words. He did not care about the ceremony. He only cared about keeping her alive. That was when he saw them. 5 figures appeared from nowhere. One moment the space around the Queen was empty. The next moment, 5 cloaked shapes stood in a circle around her. They had used phase cloaks, technology that bent light and made the wearer invisible. T had heard of such things but never seen them. The assassins moved as one. They drew long, curved blades from beneath their cloaks. The metal gleamed in the starlight. Time seemed to slow down. T heard gasps from the crowd above. He heard someone scream. He saw the Villani guards frozen in shock, unable to process what they were seeing. He saw Queen Lyra standing perfectly still, her purple eyes wide, her body paralyzed with fear. He did not think, he simply ran. His legs pushed off the ground with all their strength. His boots pounded against the sacred floor, breaking every law the Villani held dear. He was running toward the queen at full speed, and nothing in the universe could have stopped him. The first assassin turned toward him. The blade came down in a smooth arc, cutting through his left shoulder. T felt the metal slice through muscle and scrape against bone. Blood sprayed into the air. Pain exploded through his body like fire. He kept running. The second assassin was faster. This blade caught him across the ribs, opening a deep gash that immediately began to pour blood. T felt his shirt become wet and heavy. He felt his breath catch in his chest. He kept running. The third assassin aimed for his leg. The blade stabbed into his thigh and pulled out again, leaving a hole that made his leg buckle. T stumbled. His knee hit the ground. For one terrible moment, he thought he would fall. He pushed himself up. He kept running. The fourth assassin was behind him now. This blade caught him across the back, cutting a long line from his shoulder to his hip. T felt his skin split open. He felt blood running down his spine. The pain was so intense that his vision went white for a moment. He kept running. The fifth assassin was the closest to the queen. This one raised the blade high, ready to bring it down into her heart. Time seemed to freeze. T saw the blade at the top of its arc. He saw Queen Lyra's face, beautiful and terrified. He saw the end of everything. He threw himself forward. His hand shot out and caught the blade mid-swing. The metal cut into his palm, through the flesh, and scraped against the bones of his fingers. Blood poured from his hand like water from a broken pipe. The pain was beyond anything he had ever felt. But the blade stopped. T pulled the assassin toward him with the trapped blade and drove his forehead into the creature's face. The assassin crumpled. T ripped the blade from his own hand and used it to cut down the fourth assassin before they could strike again. The third assassin lunged at him. T dropped low, ignoring the screaming pain in his leg, and swept the blade across their stomach. The assassin fell. The second assassin tried to run. T threw the blade. It spun through the air and buried itself in the assassin's back. They collapsed without a sound. The first assassin, the one who had cut his shoulder, raised their weapon and charged. T stepped aside, grabbed the assassin's arm and broke it with a single sharp twist. He took their blade from their limp fingers and drove it through their chest. Then it was over. 5 assassins lay dead on the sacred floor. Blood was everywhere, red against the white stone, spreading in slow circles. The floating lights continued to drift peacefully through the air as if nothing had happened. T stood in the center of the carnage. His body was destroyed. His shoulder was useless. His ribs were cut open. His leg could barely hold his weight. His back was split from shoulder to hip. His hand was a ruin of torn flesh and broken bone. He looked at Queen Lyra. She was still standing on the platform, untouched. Her purple eyes were fixed on him. Her crystal face showed an expression he had never seen before. Fear, not fear of the assassins, fear of something else. "You are hurt," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. T tried to answer. He tried to tell her that he was fine, that he had done his job, that she was safe now. But no words came out. His mouth opened, but only blood spilled from his lips. His legs gave out. He fell to his knees before the queen. The blade dropped from his ruined hand. The world was getting dark around the edges. He heard voices shouting. He heard footsteps running toward him. He felt hands trying to hold him up, but he could not feel whose hands they were. Everything was becoming distant, like a dream fading at the moment of waking. The last thing he saw was Queen Lyra kneeling in front of him. Her silver face was cracked with emotion, real emotion, something the Vellani never showed. She reached out and touched his cheek with her long, delicate fingers. "Why?" she asked, her voice broke. "Why did you do this?" T wanted to answer. He wanted to tell her that it was his job. He wanted to tell her that he had made a promise. He wanted to tell her that some things were worth more than pain, more than blood, more than life itself. But the darkness was too strong. His eyes closed. His body went limp. His heart, which had been beating so fast just moments ago, slowed to a whisper. The last sound he heard was Queen Lyra screaming his name. Then there was nothing. T opened his eyes to a world made of light. He was lying on something soft. Above him, a ceiling glowed with a gentle blue color that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Strange machines floated in the air around him, making quiet humming sounds. The room smelled clean, like fresh rain on a spring morning. He was alive. That was surprising. He remembered the blades. He remembered the pain. He remembered falling at the Queen's feet with blood pouring from his body. He remembered darkness. He remembered nothing after that. Slowly, carefully, he lifted his hand and looked at it. The hand that had caught the blade, the hand that had been torn apart, was now whole. The skin was smooth and unmarked. Not even a scar remained. He flexed his fingers. They moved perfectly. He sat up and looked at his body. His shoulder, which had been cut to the bone, was healed. His ribs, which had been sliced open, were closed. His leg, which had been stabbed through, showed no sign of injury. His back, which had been split from shoulder to hip, was smooth and strong. Every wound was gone. Every injury was erased. It was as if the night of 5 blades had never happened. "You were dead," a voice said. T turned his head and saw a Vellani woman standing near the door. She was shorter than most Vellani, with pale green skin and kind eyes. She wore simple white robes that marked her as a healer. "My name is Suri," she said. "I am the one who treated your body, but I am not the one who saved your life." T's throat was dry. He swallowed and found his voice. "How long was I out?" 3 days, Suri replied. She walked closer to his bed and looked at him with something like wonder. "You were dead for 11 minutes before we could bring you back. Your heart had stopped. Your brain had stopped. By all medical understanding, you should not be speaking to me right now." "Then how am I here?" Suri was quiet for a moment. She seemed to be choosing her words carefully. "The Queen used a forbidden technique. It is called soul binding. It is an ancient practice that was outlawed thousands of years ago because of its terrible cost. The Queen bound your life force to her own. She used her own essence to anchor your soul and pull you back from death." T felt his chest tighten. "She did that for me." "Yes." "Why?" Suri shook her head. "That is a question only she can answer. But you should know that the soul binding came with a price. The Queen is not the same as she was before." Before T could ask what that meant, the door to the chamber opened. Queen Lyra walked in. T blinked. His vision blurred for a moment, then cleared, then blurred again. Something was wrong with his eyes. He was seeing double. No, he was not seeing double. There were 2 of her. 2 Queen Lyras stood before him. They looked exactly the same, with the same silver skin and the same purple eyes and the same beautiful face. But they were different in ways that were hard to explain. One wore royal robes of silver and white. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were heavy with exhaustion. She stood straight and proud, but there was a weight on her shoulders that seemed to press her down. This was the Queen he knew. The other wore simple white clothes like the healers. Her expression was curious and open, like a child seeing something new for the first time. She tilted her head as she looked at T, studying him with innocent interest. There was no weight on her at all. She seemed light, almost playful. T stared at them. His mind refused to understand what his eyes were showing him. "What is this?" he asked. The queen in royal robes stepped forward. "I am Lyra," she said. Her voice was tired. "I am the queen, you know. I carry all my memories, all my duties, all my burdens." The queen in simple white stepped forward next. "I am also Lyra," she said. Her voice was lighter, almost musical. "But I do not remember being queen. I do not remember the politics or the enemies or the centuries of rule. I remember only one thing." "What do you remember?" T asked. The second Lyra smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine, something the queen had never shown before. "I remember the moment I refused to let you die." Suri spoke softly from the corner of the room. "The soul binding fractured the queen's consciousness. When she used her essence to save you, her mind split into two parts. One part holds everything she was. The other part was born new, created in that single moment of desperate choice." T looked from one queen to the other. "Can this be fixed?" The original Lyra, the one in royal robes, closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were filled with pain. "There is a way. On our sacred moon, there is an artifact called the Echo Stone. It has the power to reunify a split soul. But the journey is dangerous, and my enemies grow bolder every hour." "Your enemies?" "The ones who sent the assassins. They have not given up. Now that I am divided, they see opportunity. They demand my abdication. They say a fractured queen cannot rule." Her voice grew hard. "They are circling like predators, waiting for me to fall." T pushed himself off the bed. His body felt strong, stronger than before. Whatever the queen had done to save him, it had done more than just heal his wounds. It had made him better. "Then we don't let you fall," he said. The original Lyra looked at him with surprise. "You would still fight for me. After everything, I treated you like nothing. I let my people insult you. I never even spoke your name." "You also died to save me," T replied. "You broke yourself in half to keep me alive. I think that says more than words ever could." The second Lyra, the new one, stepped closer to him. She reached out and touched his arm. Her crystal fingers were warm, not cold like he expected. "You are strange," she said. "My other half has memories of you, but I am only now understanding what those memories mean. You took 5 blades for someone who never thanked you. You died for someone who treated you like an animal. Why?" T thought about the question. He had asked himself the same thing many times during his weeks in the palace. Why did he care about a queen who did not care about him? Why did he risk everything for people who hated his kind? "Because protecting someone is not about being thanked," he said finally. "It is not about being respected or loved. It is about keeping a promise. When I took this job, I promised to protect. That promise did not have conditions. It did not say I would only protect if I was treated well. A promise is a promise." The second Lyra tilted her head. "Your people are very strange," she said. "But I think I am beginning to understand why my other half could not let you die." The original Lyra stepped forward. Her tired eyes met T's eyes directly. "I am giving you a new assignment," she said. "You will not guard me, you will guard her." She pointed at her other half. "She is me, but she is also not me. She has my power, but none of my knowledge. She is innocent in a world of enemies. If something happens to her before we reach the Echo Stone, she will be lost forever, and I will be incomplete for eternity." T looked at the second Lyra. She smiled at him again, that warm and genuine smile that seemed impossible on the queen's face. "I will protect her," he said, "even if it costs you your life again." T thought of the 5 blades. He thought of the pain. He thought of the darkness that had swallowed him whole. Then he thought of waking up to find that someone had given half of herself to save him. "Some things are worth more than life," he said. The original Lyra nodded slowly. "Then go, find the Echo Stone, save us both." She paused, and for just a moment her cold mask cracked. "And please come back, I do not wish to lose you again." It was the first time she had ever asked him for anything. It would not be the last. The ship was small and fast. It cut through the darkness of space like a silver arrow, heading toward the sacred moon of the Vellani people. Inside, T sat in the pilot's seat while the second Lyra sat beside him, watching the stars with wonder in her eyes. They had left Velora Prime 3 hours ago. The original Lyra had arranged for a secret departure, using trusted allies to create a distraction, while T and the second Lyra escaped through a hidden docking bay. The Queen's enemies were everywhere now, and secrecy was their only protection. The second Lyra had chosen a new name for herself. She said that sharing a name with her other half was confusing, and that she wanted something of her own. She chose Yira. It meant new light in the ancient Vellani language. T liked the name, it suited her. Yira was nothing like the queen he had served for months. Where Lyra was cold, Yira was warm. Where Lyra was silent, Yira was curious. Where Lyra hid her emotions behind a mask of ice, Yira showed everything she felt without shame. It was strange to see the same face express so many different things. "Tell me about Earth," Yira said suddenly. T glanced at her. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. I have memories of reading about humans in my other half's mind, but those memories are like pictures without feeling. I want to understand what it means to be from your world." T thought for a moment. "Earth is loud," he said. "It is messy. It is full of people fighting and laughing and crying and loving. It is beautiful and ugly at the same time. It is nothing like Velora Prime." "It sounds wonderful." "It is not always wonderful. There is war, there is pain, there is death, but there is also hope. Even when things are at their worst, humans find reasons to keep going." Yira turned to look at him. Her purple eyes were deep and thoughtful. "Is that what you did? When you caught that blade with your hand, you found a reason to keep going?" T looked at his hand. It was whole now, perfect and unmarked, but he could still feel the ghost of that blade cutting through his flesh. "I did not think about it," he admitted. "When I saw those assassins, when I saw the blade coming for the queen, my body just moved. There was no time for reasons. There was only the need to protect." "That is what I do not understand," Yira said. "My other half's memories show me that humans feel pain more intensely than Vellani. Your bodies are not made of crystal. Your flesh is soft. When you are cut, you suffer, but you kept running. You took 5 blades and you kept running. How?" T was quiet for a long time. The question was not easy to answer. It touched something deep inside him, something he rarely talked about. "When I was young," he said finally, "I had a sister. Her name was Yuna. She was small and weak, always getting sick. Our parents worked all the time, so I took care of her. I walked her to school. I cooked her meals. I held her when she was scared." He paused. The memories were old but still sharp. "One day, some older boys tried to hurt her. They thought she was an easy target. I was only 10 years old, but I fought them. There were 5 of them and 1 of me. They broke my arm. They cracked my ribs. They kicked me until I could not stand. But I did not let them touch her." Yira listened in silence. Her eyes never left his face. "Later at the hospital, a doctor asked me how I kept fighting with a broken arm. I told him the truth. I told him that my arm hurt, but my sister mattered more. The pain was real, but it was smaller than my love for her." He looked at Yira. "That is how humans endure. We do not ignore pain. We do not pretend it does not exist. We simply find things that matter more than the pain. When those things are in danger, the pain becomes small." Yira was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "And when you took those 5 blades for my other half, what mattered more than the pain?" T did not answer right away. He thought about the queen, about her cold face and colder words. He thought about the months of silence and disrespect. He thought about the moment she touched his cheek as he lay dying on the sacred floor. "A promise," he said, "and maybe something else that I did not understand until it was too late." Yira reached out and took his hand. Her crystal fingers wrapped around his human ones. The touch was gentle and warm. "I think I understand now," she said. "My other half could not let you die because you taught her something she had forgotten. You showed her that love is not just words. Love is what you do when words are not enough." Before T could respond, an alarm sounded through the ship. He turned to the control panel. His heart sank. 3 enemy ships had appeared behind them, closing fast. They were warships, heavily armed, flying the colors of the rival faction. "They found us," T said. He grabbed the flight controls and pushed the ship into a hard turn. "Hold on." The chase through space was violent and desperate. T pushed the small ship to its limits, diving between asteroids and spinning through debris fields. Enemy fire lit up the darkness around them, narrowly missing their hull again and again. Yira did not scream. She did not panic. She sat calmly in her seat and watched the chaos outside the window with those curious purple eyes. "Are we going to die?" she asked. "Not today," T replied. He saw an opening. The sacred moon was close now, just beyond a ring of floating rocks. If he could reach the surface, they might have a chance. The Echo Stone was hidden in a temple at the moon's core. They just had to survive long enough to get there. He pushed the engines to maximum. The ship screamed in protest. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. But the moon grew larger and larger in the window, and the enemy ships fell behind, unable to match his reckless speed. They broke through the atmosphere with fire trailing behind them. The ship shook so hard that T thought it might fall apart, but he held the controls steady, and somehow, impossibly, they landed on the surface of the sacred moon. The ship was damaged, smoke poured from the engines, but they were alive. T looked at Yira. She was looking back at him with something like awe in her eyes. "You flew through fire," she said. "You did not hesitate. You did not doubt. How can one person be so certain in the face of death?" T thought about the question. Then he smiled. It was the first time he had smiled since arriving on Velora Prime. "Because some things matter more than fear," he said. "And you matter, Yira. Your other half gave part of herself to save me. The least I can do is make sure that sacrifice was not wasted." Yira's eyes filled with an emotion that the Velani rarely showed. It looked like tears, but her crystal skin could not produce water. Instead, her whole face seemed to glow with soft light. "I am only days old," she said. "I have no memories of my own, no history, no past. But in these few days with you, I have learned more about life than my other half learned in centuries. You have taught me that strength is not about power. It is about choice. It is about deciding what matters and holding on to it no matter what." She stood up and looked out the window at the barren landscape of the sacred moon. In the distance, the temple waited. "Come," she said, "let us find the Echo Stone. Let us make my other half whole again." She paused and looked back at him. "And when this is over, I hope she remembers what I have learned. I hope she remembers that the human she ignored was worth more than all the crystal palaces in the galaxy." T stood and walked to her side. The enemy ships were landing in the distance. They did not have much time. "She will remember," he said. "I will make sure of it." Together, they walked toward the temple. Behind them, the enemy followed. Ahead, the Echo Stone waited. And the hardest choice was yet to come. The temple was ancient. Its walls were made of dark crystal that seemed to absorb the light. Strange symbols covered every surface, telling stories in a language that had been forgotten for thousands of years. At the center of the temple, floating in a column of soft white light, was the Echo Stone. It was smaller than T expected, no bigger than his fist, but the power radiating from it was unmistakable. He could feel it pressing against his skin like heat from a fire. Yira stood before the stone, her purple eyes reflecting its glow. She reached out toward it but did not touch it. Her hand trembled. "What is wrong?" T asked. "I can hear it," Yira whispered. "The stone. It is speaking to me. It is telling me what must be done to reunify my other half." What does it say? Yira was silent for a long moment. When she turned to face him, there were tears of light streaming down her crystal face. To become one again, one half must willingly cease to exist. The stone cannot merge us. It can only allow one to absorb the other. T felt his heart stop. What does that mean? It means that either I disappear into Lyra or Lyra disappears into me. One of us must choose to end. There is no other way. The words hung in the air like stones. T wanted to argue, wanted to find another solution, but he could see the truth in Yira's eyes. There was no other way. Then Lyra should disappear into you, he said. You are new, you are pure. You do not carry the weight of centuries of cold politics and— No, Yira's voice was firm. My other half has memories that the Vellani need. She knows how to lead. She knows how to protect our people from the enemies who circle like wolves. If she disappears, the Vellani will fall. And what about you? T demanded. You are only days old. You have barely begun to live. How can you choose to end? Yira smiled. It was a sad smile, but also peaceful. I was born in a moment of love, she said. I was created when my other half refused to let you die. My entire existence is that single choice stretched into a person. If I must end to complete that choice, then I will end gladly. T stepped toward her, his hands shook, his eyes burned. Yira, please, there has to be another way. There is not. She reached up and touched his face. Her fingers were warm against his skin. But I can give you a gift before I go, a piece of myself that will stay with you always, so that you will never be alone and so that my other half will always remember what I learned during my short life. Before T could respond, the temple shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The sound of weapons fire echoed from outside. The enemy had arrived. T turned toward the entrance. He could see shadows moving in the corridor beyond, dozens of soldiers from the rival faction. They had followed them across space. They had tracked them to this sacred place, and now they were coming to finish what the 5 assassins had started. Go to the stone, T said. Do what you need to do, I will hold them. There are too many, Yira said. You cannot fight them all. T looked at her. He thought of the 5 blades. He thought of the pain he had endured. He thought of the promise he had made to a queen who treated him like nothing. I am human, he said. We do not count enemies, we count the things that matter. And you matter, Yira, your other half matters. This ending, this chance for the queen to be whole again, it matters. I will hold them for as long as it takes. Yira's eyes filled with that glowing light again. She grabbed his face with both hands and pressed her forehead against his. For a moment, T felt something flow into him, something warm and bright, like sunlight filling a dark room. This is my gift, she whispered, a fragment of my essence. You will never be fully human again, but you will never be alone in your mind. And when my other half wakes, she will feel what I felt for you. She will know. Then she let go and ran toward the echo stone. T turned toward the entrance. He picked up a fallen piece of crystal from the floor. It was sharp on one end, about the length of his forearm. It was not a proper weapon, but it would have to do. The first soldiers appeared in the doorway. They were Vellani warriors, trained in combat despite their people's claims of being peaceful. They carried energy weapons that could cut through steel. T attacked before they could fire. He was faster than he had ever been before, stronger. The fragment of Yira's essence burned inside him, giving him power beyond his human limits. He cut down the first 3 soldiers before they even knew he was moving. More came, he fought them all. The battle was brutal and bloody. T took hits that would have killed a normal man. An energy blast burned through his side. A blade cut across his leg. A fist cracked against his jaw hard enough to shatter bone. But he did not fall. He could not fall. Not yet. Behind him, he heard Yira's voice rising in the ancient language of the Vellani. The echo stone began to pulse with brilliant white light. The air itself seemed to vibrate with power. More soldiers poured through the entrance. T was pushed back step by step toward the center of the temple. His body was failing. His vision was blurring. Blood poured from a dozen wounds. But he kept fighting. The light from the echo stone grew brighter and brighter. T heard Yira cry out, not in pain, but in something like joy. He turned his head for just a moment and saw her standing in the column of light, her arms spread wide, her face peaceful. "Goodbye, Kang T," she said. "Thank you for teaching me what it means to love." Then she dissolved into light. The explosion of energy threw everyone to the ground. T felt the force slam into him like a wave. When he opened his eyes, the enemy soldiers were unconscious, scattered across the temple floor. The echo stone was dark and silent. And Queen Lyra stood where Yira had been. She was whole. Her eyes were sharp and clear. But there was something different about her face, something softer, something warmer. She looked at T with an expression he had never seen before. Then she ran to him. She fell to her knees beside him and pulled his broken body into her arms. Her hands pressed against his wounds, and he felt her power flowing into him, healing him, saving him just as she had saved him once before. "You fool," she whispered. "You beautiful, stubborn, impossible fool. You nearly died again." "It was worth it," T managed to say. Lyra laughed. It was the first time he had ever heard her laugh. "She was right about you. Yira was right about everything. I have all her memories now. I know what she learned. I know what she felt." She looked into his eyes. "I know what she felt for you." T did not know what to say, so he said nothing. 3 weeks later, T stood before the Vellani Council. The rival faction had been defeated. Their leaders had been arrested. The threat to Queen Lyra's rule was over. The queen herself stood at the front of the council chamber, dressed in robes of silver and white. She looked every bit the powerful ruler she had always been. But there was warmth in her eyes now, a warmth that had not been there before. "I have called this council to make an announcement," she said. Her voice filled the chamber. "The human Kang T has served me with loyalty beyond measure. He has bled for me. He has died for me. He has fought armies for me. And he did all of this without asking for reward, without expecting gratitude, without even receiving basic respect." The council was silent. Every eye was on T. "The Vellani have long believed that humans are primitive creatures," the queen continued. "We have called them violent. We have called them simple. We have treated them as lesser beings. But I have learned that we were wrong." She stepped down from her throne and walked toward T. She stopped directly in front of him and took his hand in hers. "This man endured 5 blades for me. He caught a killing strike with his bare hand. He fought impossible odds without hesitation. And when I asked why, he told me it was because some things matter more than pain. Some things matter more than fear. Some things matter more than life itself." She turned to face the council. "That is not primitive," she said. "That is not simple. That is what my people have forgotten how to be. That is what we lost when we decided that our minds were more important than our hearts." She raised T's hand high. "I declare Kang T to be Vellanikin, the first human ever granted this title. He is no longer a servant. He is no longer a guard. He is family. He is one of us. And anyone who disrespects him disrespects me." The council was stunned into silence. Then, slowly, one by one, they began to stand. They placed their hands over their hearts in the Vellani gesture of respect. For the first time in history, a human was honored by the Vellani people. That night, T stood on a balcony overlooking the stars. Queen Lyra stood beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Taking those blades for someone who treated you so badly?" T thought about the question. He thought about the pain. He thought about the darkness. He thought about Yira's smile and the warmth of her gift that still glowed inside him. "No," he said, "I would do it again." Lyra smiled. It was Yira's smile, warm and genuine on the queen's face. Then I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never have to, she said. She took his hand, and together they watched the stars spin slowly in the endless dark, two souls bound by sacrifice, by pain, and by a love that had cost them everything and given them everything in return. The end.